Ethan had always loved quiet places. The stars, the soft wind, and the endless stretches of alien plains made him feel at peace. He was a young human engineer, sent to a remote outpost on the planet Vera, a world known for its strange purple skies and floating rock formations. He liked to spend his free time exploring the land, finding small details that most people ignored. Today, he had wandered further than usual, climbing a small ridge to see the horizon. The view was beautiful, with the twin moons glowing faintly as the sun dipped behind a distant mountain range. As he walked along the ridge, Ethan noticed something unusual. A figure stood near the edge of a small cliff, staring at the valley below. At first, he thought it was a patrol, maybe one of the alien scouts who monitored the area. But as he got closer, he saw that this was no ordinary visitor. She was tall, her posture perfect, her presence commanding. Her skin had a faint golden shimmer, and her eyes were deep and bright, almost like liquid amber. Her hair flowed down her back in soft waves, catching the sunlight. Ethan froze for a moment. She looked regal. He took a careful step forward, unsure if he should speak. "Hello," he said softly, not wanting to startle her. The woman turned slowly. Her gaze met his, sharp but not unfriendly. "You are far from your post," she said, her voice calm but strong. Ethan noticed the slight musical quality to it, a rhythm he had never heard in human speech. I like to explore," he replied. "It helps me think. I didn't mean to intrude. I didn't mean to intrude." She studied him for a moment, then nodded slightly. "Curiosity is not forbidden here. Few humans have the courage to walk this ridge." Ethan's heart raced. Something about the way she spoke made him feel both nervous and strangely comfortable. "I didn't know anyone was here," he said, gesturing to the empty land around them. "It's just me." The woman's eyes softened. "You are brave. Human. Not everyone walks alone where the land can be unforgiving." Ethan smiled nervously. "I guess I like quiet places. They help me think. My name is Ethan, by the way. I am Leora," she said simply. Her voice carried a strange power, yet it was calm, not commanding. Ethan didn't know who she was. He had read reports about the rulers of this alien empire, but he had never expected to meet one. He looked at her, unsure how to act. He didn't want to offend her, and he didn't want to run away like a coward. As they stood there, Ethan noticed a small violet flower growing between the rocks. It was delicate, almost glowing in the soft sunlight. On a whim, he picked it carefully, making sure not to crush its fragile petals. "Here," he said, holding it out to her. "I thought you might like this." Leora blinked, taken off guard. She looked at the flower, then back at Ethan. "You give me a flower?" she asked. Her voice filled with surprise. "I just thought it was nice," Ethan said, unsure why she seemed so affected. "It looked like it belonged here, and I wanted to share it." For a moment, Leora didn't speak. Then, slowly, she reached out and accepted the flower. Her fingers brushed against his, and Ethan felt a strange warmth, almost like a spark running through his body. "This gesture," she said finally, "carries a deep meaning in my culture." "I didn't know," Ethan admitted quickly. "I just thought it was pretty." Leora's eyes softened, but there was still a quiet intensity in her gaze. "In my world, giving a living blossom is a symbol of loyalty, trust, and a promise of protection. Few outsiders understand this. You have shown courage and respect without knowing it." Ethan swallowed hard. He had not meant to do anything important. He had just picked a flower. Yet, somehow, that small act had made a connection stronger than he could understand. The silence stretched between them for a few moments. The wind blew gently, moving Leora's hair across her face. She finally looked down at the flower again, and then back at him. "You may leave now," she said softly, though her tone suggested she did not want him to go. "I should go back," Ethan said, feeling both relieved and disappointed. "I didn't mean to overstep." "You did not overstep," Leora said quietly. "But understand this, human. Your action will have consequences you cannot yet see." Ethan nodded, unsure what she meant. He gave a small bow and started down the ridge, glancing back occasionally. Leora remained standing, watching him with an unreadable expression. When Ethan returned to his outpost, he tried to explain what had happened to his colleagues. "I just met someone," he said. "She was different. And I gave her a flower." His friends laughed nervously. "A flower? Really, Ethan? You scared half the scouting team, and now you're telling us you gave a flower to someone you don't even know?" "I'm serious," Ethan insisted. "She wasn't human. I think she might be important." One of his colleagues, a woman named Clara, raised an eyebrow. "Important? How do you know?" Ethan shook his head. "I don't know. I felt like she was special. I can't explain it." That night, Ethan lay in his small quarters, staring at the ceiling. He could still see her face, her eyes, and the way she had held the flower. It was strange. He had no idea who she really was. Yet he felt drawn to her. Meanwhile, far above the planet, Leora returned to her ship. Her guards and advisors waited for her, anxious and alert. When they asked about the human, she did not answer immediately. She placed the violet flower carefully in a small crystal vase, letting its petals glow in the soft light. "He gave me a flower," she said quietly to herself. "A living thing, chosen freely, without knowing its meaning." Such gestures are rare among humans. Her chief advisor, a tall alien named Kellen, stepped forward. "Your Majesty, the human does not understand our laws. By accepting the flower, you have invoked the ceremony of choosing. It is ancient and binding. You cannot undo it." Leora's golden eyes narrowed. "I am aware," she said. But he did not act with knowledge or intent. He acted from kindness. "I will not punish him for being unaware." Kellen's antennas twitched nervously. "The law is the law, my queen. Others may not understand your mercy." Leora smiled faintly. "Then they will learn. Sometimes, the heart must guide the law." Back on the ridge the next day, Ethan returned to the same spot, hoping to see her again. But she did not appear. He wondered if he had imagined the whole encounter. The wind carried a faint fragrance, and he noticed the violet flower lying on the ground where he had first picked it. He picked it up again, holding it carefully. "What am I supposed to do with this?" he whispered to himself. Little did he know, the small gesture had already set events in motion that would change not only his life but the fate of two worlds. Leora had sent observers to follow him quietly, learning about his behavior, his kindness, and his ability to think under pressure. She had begun to consider him not just as a human, but as someone worthy of trust, a rarity in her experience with outsiders. Ethan continued his daily routines, fixing engines, checking communications, and assisting the research teams. Yet, he felt a growing curiosity about the woman with golden eyes. Why had she seemed so affected by a simple flower? Why had she looked at him in a way that made him feel seen? Days passed. Ethan's colleagues noticed a change in him. He was quieter, more thoughtful. He spent his free time walking, thinking about the queen, wondering what she was doing, and what she might want from him. He didn't know it yet, but Leora was observing everything from afar, studying his reactions, and preparing for the first step of a larger plan. One evening, as Ethan walked along the ridge again, he heard the soft hum of a ship landing nearby. He turned and saw a sleek vessel touching down quietly behind the rocks. Before he could react, a small scout drone approached, projecting a message in a language he could barely understand. But the translator in his pocket immediately converted it. "Ethan, you are requested to meet with Queen Leora," the message said. His heart skipped a beat. The queen wanted to see him? He glanced around, wondering if this was some kind of prank, but the seriousness of the message the quiet hum of the ship, and the precise delivery told him it was real. Ethan took a deep breath and walked toward the ship, holding the violet flower carefully in his hand. He did not know what awaited him, but he felt a strange certainty that nothing in his life would ever be the same again. Inside the ship, the air was cool, and soft lights glowed along the walls. Leora awaited him in the central chamber, standing as if she had expected him all along. The room was vast and quiet, filled with a sense of calm authority. "Welcome, Ethan," she said, her voice gentle but firm. "You have shown courage and kindness, though you did not know the consequences. That is why I requested your presence." Ethan stepped forward, unsure what to say. I didn't know I was doing anything important. I just gave you a flower." Leora smiled faintly. "And yet, that simple act may change everything." Ethan looked at her, confused and intrigued. He could not imagine what she meant. All he knew was that he was about to step into a world far beyond his understanding. A world where one small gesture could hold the weight of empires. And in that moment, he felt the first spark of something extraordinary. Something that would bind him to the alien queen in ways he could never have imagined. Ethan could hardly believe what was happening. The moment he stepped onto the alien ship, he felt like he had entered another world. The walls glowed softly, and the air smelled faintly of something floral, almost like the violet flower he had given to Leora. He looked around nervously, clutching the flower in his hand. Every instinct told him to run back to his outpost, to the safety of what he knew. But he also felt a strange pull, a sense that he was meant to be here. Leora stood at the center of the chamber, her golden eyes fixed on him. She did not smile, but there was no anger in her gaze either. She seemed calm, confident, and commanding, as if the whole ship moved to her rhythm. Ethan swallowed hard and stepped forward. "Ethan," Leora said softly, "you do not fully understand the meaning of your gesture. In my culture, giving a flower is more than a gift. It is a bond. It carries the weight of trust, loyalty, and if accepted, the promise of companionship and protection." Ethan's mind raced. I didn't know that. I just thought it was pretty. I didn't mean anything by it." Leora tilted her head slightly. "That is why your action is so remarkable. You acted without knowledge, and yet your gesture was pure. You are not trying to gain favor or reward. You are honest. And in a human who steps into our world, that is rare." Ethan blushed, unsure what to say. I'm just a human. I don't know your rules or your ceremonies. I didn't mean to cause trouble." "Trouble?" Leora's voice was calm but firm. "No. You have not caused trouble. You have awakened possibilities that have been dormant for centuries." She paused and then stepped closer. "By giving me the flower, you have unknowingly triggered the ceremony of choosing. The law of my people binds me to acknowledge you. That law is ancient and cannot be ignored." Ethan's heart skipped a beat. "Wait. What? Ceremony of choosing? You mean me?" Leora nodded slowly. "Yes. By accepting the flower, I must publicly acknowledge you as my chosen consort, unless you refuse. It is an honor, but also a responsibility." Ethan felt a cold wave of fear mixed with disbelief. He had not intended anything like this. He was just a simple engineer from Earth, and now he was supposed to become the consort of an alien queen? I don't know what to say," he whispered. "You need not answer immediately," Leora said, her tone gentle. "You will have time to understand our ways, our customs, and what your role could mean. I am giving you the choice to decide. After you have seen the life you would share." Ethan nodded, still holding the violet flower. He could feel its soft petals brushing against his fingers, and somehow, it gave him courage. I want to learn," he said quietly. "I want to understand." Leora's lips curved into the faintest of smiles. "Good. Then we begin." The next days were unlike anything Ethan had experienced. He traveled aboard Leora's ship, observing her work, her decisions, and her interactions with her people. He saw her speaking to advisors, negotiating with commanders, and calming citizens who feared conflict. She was not only a ruler, but a protector. She carried the weight of her empire on her shoulders, yet she treated everyone with respect and care. Ethan tried to keep up with the schedule, but he often felt overwhelmed. The technology, the customs, and the language were all so different from what he knew. Yet Leora never criticized him for mistakes. Instead, she explained patiently, showing him the reasons behind every decision, every rule, every ritual. One morning, they visited the royal gardens of the ship. Ethan had never seen anything like it. Giant flowers floated in mid-air, streams of water sparkled with colors he could not name, and delicate lights shimmered on the leaves. Leora walked beside him, quiet for a moment. "You helped me choose today," she said softly, "even when you did not know what it meant. Your heart guided you. That is why I respect you. Humans are often reckless, seeking power or gain. But you have nothing to gain here." Ethan looked at her, surprised. I didn't do anything special. I just wanted to be kind." "That is exactly why it matters," Leora said. "Kindness, honesty, and courage, these are qualities I value more than skill, strength, or wealth. You possess them, and that is why the bond is significant." Ethan felt a warmth in his chest. He could not explain why, but her words touched him deeply. He had never imagined that a simple act like giving a flower could mean so much. Over the next week, Ethan participated in ceremonies, meetings, and inspections. He learned about her people's traditions, their struggles, and the dangers they faced from rival factions. Every time he saw Leora make a decision, he understood more about her strength, her wisdom, and the burden she carried alone. One afternoon, during a council meeting, a warning arrived. A group of rebels had attacked one of the outer colonies. Leora's council looked tense, but she remained composed. "We will not panic," she said firmly. "We will assess, plan, and act with precision. Fear does not lead to victory. Action guided by reason does." Ethan watched her closely. He realized that she was unlike any leader he had ever known. She did not rule through fear or violence alone. She ruled through respect, understanding, and intelligence. And she trusted him to observe, to learn, and to support where he could. When the council meeting ended, Leora walked with Ethan through the quiet corridors of the ship. "You will be called upon soon," she said softly. "There may be moments when you must act, not as a visitor, but as someone bound to me by choice and tradition." Ethan nodded. I understand. I will do my best." "I do not expect perfection," Leora said. "I expect honesty, courage, and loyalty. That is enough." The next day, Ethan was in the engineering bay when the first alert came. Sensors detected sabotage in one of the ship's critical systems. Panic could have spread, but Ethan remembered Leora's lessons. He worked quickly, using his knowledge of human engineering to stabilize the system. Warnings blared, lights flashed, but he stayed calm, following the procedures he had learned from both human manuals and Leora's instructions. When Leora arrived, she found him focused, sweat on his brow but his hands steady. She watched silently for a moment, then nodded approvingly. "You have courage," she said quietly, "and the ability to think under pressure. These qualities are rare, even among my people." Ethan felt a mix of pride and relief. He had only followed instructions, yet her words made him feel like he belonged. It was a strange feeling, like stepping into a role he never imagined but discovering that he could fill it. Over the following days, Ethan continued to prove himself, assisting in technical matters, strategy discussions, and even moral guidance for the crew. He learned that Leora trusted him not because he was perfect, but because he was human, honest, and brave in ways her own people sometimes lacked. One evening, as they walked through the observation deck, the twin moons of Vera glowed outside the large windows. Ethan held the violet flower in his hand, noticing how its petals seemed brighter under the alien light. Leora stood beside him, silent, looking out at the moons. "You have changed my perspective," she said quietly. "I have lived long, seen many humans, and yet none have acted with such purity. You make me question what is possible not only for my people, but for the galaxy." Ethan looked at her, surprised. I just tried to be kind. I never expected this." "That is what makes your actions powerful," Leora replied. "Intentions without selfishness hold strength greater than armies or weapons." Ethan felt a lump in his throat. He had never felt so seen, so understood by anyone, not even his family back on Earth, and he realized, slowly, that he was beginning to care for her in ways he could not explain. Then, a message arrived from the outer colonies. The rebels had regrouped, and an attack was imminent. Leora turned to Ethan. "This is your first test," she said. "You may choose to act or observe. Your choice will shape how you serve. Not just as a human, but as my consort." Ethan felt fear rise in his chest. But he remembered her lessons. Courage was not the absence of fear, it was acting despite it. He nodded, setting the violet flower aside carefully. "I will act," he said firmly. Together, they moved to coordinate defenses, rallying crews and soldiers. Ethan used his engineering skills to repair critical systems, divert power to shields, and prevent sabotage from crippling the ship. Leora directed strategy, her voice calm but decisive, trusting him to handle key responsibilities. By the time the attack ended, both sides had suffered losses, but Leora's people remained strong. Ethan had played a crucial role, his actions saving countless lives. Leora approached him in the quiet aftermath, her golden eyes meeting his. "You have proven yourself," she said softly. "Not because you followed orders, but because you chose to act with courage, compassion, and intelligence. These qualities are rare, and now I know you are worthy of the bond you have initiated with the flower." Ethan felt a mix of relief and pride. He had faced the unknown, the danger, and had not failed. And he realized, more clearly than ever, that his life was changing in ways he could never have imagined. Leora extended her hand. "Tomorrow, you will stand before my people. You will be asked to accept or decline the role of consort. But know this, Ethan, you have already earned my respect and my trust." Ethan took a deep breath, feeling the weight of the moment. He nodded. "I understand. I want to be worthy of your trust." Leora smiled faintly, a rare expression that lit her face. "Then rest now. Tomorrow begins the next step, where your choices will define not only your life, but the future of my empire." That night, Ethan lay in his quarters, thinking about the days that had passed. The flower still rested on his table, a symbol of how one small gesture could change everything. He thought about Leora, her wisdom, her strength, and the quiet kindness she had shown him. He realized that he no longer feared what was to come. He felt ready, not just for the ceremony, but for the life that might follow. The bond that began with a simple flower was growing, quietly, into something far greater than he could imagine. And so, Ethan drifted to sleep, unaware of the full consequences of his choice, yet certain that his life, and the galaxy itself, was about to change forever. The next morning, Ethan woke to the soft hum of the alien ship. The violet flower from their first meeting rested on the table beside him, its petals glowing faintly in the light. Today was the day. He would stand before Queen Leora's people and be formally acknowledged as her consort. His heart raced, a mixture of fear, excitement, and wonder. He had faced danger, learned the customs of her people, and earned her respect. But the thought of standing before an entire empire was overwhelming. He dressed carefully, choosing simple clothing that he had learned was respectful in their culture. Nothing flashy, nothing offensive, just clean, neat, and humble. The human way had no place here. He had to show respect for their traditions. Leora entered his quarters quietly. She wore a long robe of deep blue and gold, her hair flowing over her shoulders. The soft light reflected from her golden skin, and her presence made the room feel warmer, calmer. "Are you ready?" she asked, her voice calm, but with a strength that made him straighten his back. Ethan nodded, though his hands trembled slightly. "You already have," Leora said softly. "Everything you have done, the courage, the honesty, the kindness, has prepared you. Today is only a formality, but it is important, for my people, and for you." He swallowed hard, nodding again. "I understand." The chamber where the ceremony would take place was enormous. Towers of gold and silver stretched high, filled with alien nobles, commanders, and advisors. Guards lined the walls, standing perfectly still. Ethan felt small and out of place. His human size, his ordinary clothing, even his trembling hands made him feel like an intruder. Leora approached the center of the chamber, and the crowd fell silent. Her voice rang out clearly, carrying authority without anger. "Today, we recognize a bond that was formed not by force, but by courage, honesty, and respect. Ethan, human, you have given me a gesture of kindness that holds great meaning in our culture. You have earned our attention and our trust." Ethan stepped forward, holding the violet flower carefully in his hands. He felt every eye on him, both curious and skeptical. He had spent days learning their ways, observing Leora's decisions, and proving himself through action. Still, he felt unsure if he would meet the expectations of an entire alien empire. "You do not understand all that your gesture has done," Leora continued, turning to the crowd. "By giving me this flower, you have invoked the ceremony of choosing, which binds us by trust and respect. It is an honor rarely given to outsiders, and yet, we see in him the qualities we value most: honesty, courage, and kindness. These qualities will guide him as my consort." Murmurs spread through the chamber. Some were whispers of disbelief, others of curiosity. Ethan could feel the weight of their scrutiny, but he focused on Leora's eyes. There was warmth there, and trust, and a quiet command that told him he belonged. A council elder, tall and stern, stepped forward. His voice carried over the chamber. "Queen Leora, by the laws of our people, the human may accept or decline. The choice is his. If he declines, the ceremony ends, but the law demands the truth of his decision be respected." Ethan's throat felt dry. He had expected hesitation, uncertainty, fear, but not judgment from so many. He looked at Leora, who smiled faintly, encouraging him silently. Taking a deep breath, he spoke clearly, his voice steady despite his nerves. "I accept. I want to be worthy of this trust. I want to learn, to help, and to support the Queen and her people. I will stand by her side as her consort, not because it is required, but because I choose to." A hush fell over the chamber. Then Leora stepped closer, her golden eyes glowing softly. She reached for the violet flower in his hands and took it gently. "Then it is done," she said. "The bond is recognized, not by law alone, but by choice and understanding. We are partners, bound by respect, courage, and loyalty." The chamber erupted in quiet applause. Some of the nobles bowed deeply. Others murmured words of approval. Ethan felt relief and pride, but also a deep humility. He was still a human among an alien empire, but he now had a place, a purpose, and a responsibility he had never imagined. Over the next days, Ethan learned the full depth of his new role. He traveled with Leora to her colonies, meeting people who had once feared outsiders. They saw him not as a human to be avoided, but as someone trusted by the Queen herself. He helped repair damaged systems, taught new techniques, and sometimes simply listened to those who needed guidance. His humanity became an asset, showing that trust and honesty could bridge worlds. One evening, while walking through the gardens of the royal ship, Leora spoke quietly. "Ethan, you have changed the way my people see outsiders. They are learning that trust can cross the boundaries of species. That is as important as any strategy or weapon." Ethan looked at her, smiling slightly. "I never thought giving a flower would lead to all this. I just wanted to be kind. Kindness is more powerful than many think," she replied. "It can change hearts, minds, and even empires. Your simple act has done more than you know." As days passed, they faced challenges. Rival factions tested their strength. Rebellions flared in remote colonies, and spies sought to disrupt the Queen's plans. Yet Ethan's presence proved invaluable. He helped devise defenses, repaired critical systems, and used his human perspective to see solutions that alien advisors had overlooked. Leora noticed this, and often spoke quietly to him after crises. "You are more capable than I imagined," she said one night, as they watched the twin moons of Vera from the observation deck. "Not just in skill, but in judgment. You are learning to see the bigger picture, to act with both heart and mind. That is why I chose you." Ethan felt a warm glow inside. "I didn't think I was capable of any of this," he admitted. "I just wanted to help, and that is exactly why you are capable," she said softly. "You act without selfishness, without pride. You are human, yet you have the qualities I value most." Their bond grew deeper. He learned about her fears, her hopes, and her dreams for her empire. He shared stories of Earth, of its people, and its ways. They laughed, argued, and sometimes sat in silence, simply enjoying each other's presence. Ethan began to understand that being consort was more than a title. It was a partnership, a shared responsibility, and a connection that neither law nor tradition could fully define. Then one day, an urgent alert arrived. A neighboring system threatened to invade. Seeing the Empire as weakened after recent unrest, Leora turned to Ethan. "We must act quickly. I will need your counsel and your courage. Are you ready?" Ethan's heart raced, but he nodded. "I am ready. We will face this together." Over the following days, they worked tirelessly. Ethan used his engineering knowledge to enhance their fleet's defenses, while Leora coordinated strategies and diplomacy. They faced attacks, sabotage, and difficult decisions. At every turn, Ethan relied not just on knowledge, but on courage, trust, and understanding the qualities that had brought him here in the first place. During a critical battle, a major system failed, threatening to destroy the flagship. Ethan acted quickly, rerouting power, repairing damage, and preventing disaster. Leora watched him, her expression calm but her eyes full of admiration. "You have saved us," she said quietly after the crisis ended. "Not because the law required it, but because you chose to act. That is the heart of a true consort." Ethan felt both pride and humility. I couldn't have done it without your guidance," he replied. "And I could not have led without your courage," she said softly. "Together, we are stronger than any threat." When the battle ended, the Empire celebrated. Ethan was honored not just as the Queen's consort, but as a hero who had bridged two worlds. He had begun as a simple human, giving a flower without understanding its meaning. Now he stood as a trusted partner to one of the most powerful leaders in the galaxy. In the quiet moments after the celebrations, Ethan and Leora stood together in the gardens of the ship. The twin moons of Vera glowed above them, casting silver light on the violet flower resting between them. "You have shown me the power of trust and kindness," Leora said quietly, "and you have chosen to stay, to act, and to care. That is why I honor you, not just as my consort, but as my partner in every sense." Ethan smiled, feeling a deep sense of belonging he had never known. "I never imagined my life would lead here. But now, I know this is where I belong. I know this is where I belong." Leora reached out, taking his hand gently. "Then let us face the future together. Not as queen and human, not as ruler and outsider, but as partners, bound by choice, trust, and courage. Together, we will shape a future neither of us could achieve alone." Ethan felt the weight of her words and the truth in them. One small gesture, one simple flower, had changed everything. It had begun as a moment of kindness, and grown into a bond that could change worlds. And as he stood beside Leora, he knew that their journey was only beginning, but that together, they could face anything. For the first time in his life, Ethan understood what it meant to belong completely, not just to a place or a people, but to a purpose, a mission, and a heart. And with the violet flower glowing softly between them, he knew that he and Leora would face the challenges of the galaxy together, stronger than anyone could imagine.